everyone, and welcome to Zalora Talks. This is your host, Amy Yasmine, and today we will be discussing a heated topic with a big S, and that's sustainability. It's a word that's probably been done to death over the span of several years, and with good reason. In 2013, Bangladesh's Rana Plaza, a building housing several garment factories, collapsed, and many saw this as a wake-up call for fashion. Pair that with fashion's environmental track record, and really it's no wonder sustainability has grown to become a heavyweight industry itself, worth $28.9 billion by 2024, actually. And, that's just in 3 years. Personally, I've had a very extensive journey to become a little bit more sustainable myself. As a former editor at an international fashion magazine, the constant pressure to keep up with trends and to always push countless products to consumers have always been playing at the back of my head. Back then, sustainability was still a very foreign ideal. If you were to ask me how many pairs of dresses or shoes I needed to get, like 20, 30, I'd be like, yeah, that's my answer. Just yes, I remember I used to shop incessantly, like once a week at least, just constantly trying to keep up with the trends. But today, things have changed. Today, secondhand fashion keeps up with the trends, and it's de rigueur. Today, technology has allowed us to purchase sweatshirts crafted from recycled nylon, T-shirts made from plastic bottles, and even shoes made from mushroom leather, which is insane. But somewhere along the lines, there's still always a little sense of ambiguity when it comes to sustainable products. How green is green? What's the difference between regular cotton and organic cotton? And for the love of God, when the world is Tencel, So on this episode, we demystify the world's most overused word with a little help from our friends, television personality and founder of Pico Bag, Yumika Hoskin. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Eco enthusiast and model Natalie Prabha. Hello. Welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And Stephanie Crespin, who will be joining us later today. Now, thank you, ladies, for coming on board with us in Zalora Talks.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us. Excited for this conversation.
Yeah. Now, okay, just to get into it, how did you guys get into sustainability?
I guess unawareingly, sort of slowly had those little habits when I was little. My mom, I grew up with two brothers in Australia, and my mom is Japanese. And, being a Japanese mom, she always used to wrap our lunches in, the reusable lunch boxes in a beautiful fabric, and it was always this reusing thing, which was very different to the other kids because the other kids had disposable things. And then also, to my disdain at the time, she would always dress me in secondhand clothes all the time. In fact, most of the time I was in boys' clothes. And it was so frustrating. But it's interesting as you grow up, I reflect back on that time being like, oh, I was cool. But during teenage years in my 20s, I thought that was so uncool. And then it's crazy to think that I've rediscovered these small habits that I grew up with, at about 26, 27, where I was like, wow, this is how to live. This is how it should be. And it also makes me feel proud to be half Japanese and want to embody that culture a bit more.
Great. Natalie?
Yeah, I actually have a similar experience because my mom, she's always been eco-conscious. She would choose more eco-friendly shampoos and toiletries and reusable things, and would make us not throw away plastic bags. I don't know if it's a thing for Asian moms to wash plastic bags and just dry them and use them afterwards. But yeah, she would do that, and we don't understand because it's just accumulating things. But then she really believes in reusing and trying to consume less, But I think the part that really strengthened my, the need to become more sustainable is when I was in uni. I did a Bachelor of Science, and I took up some environmental studies and realized we are doing a lot of damage on the planet. And I was already vegan then, but then I realized it's not enough. We need to do a lot more. So that's where I started talking about it a lot more with my knowledge.
What are the challenges you think we have to overcome in Southeast Asia in order to become more aware? Because I guess takeout is kind of like a norm now, especially since we've been living in lockdown. But beyond that, even if you go to like, for example, the roadside stalls, everything that's being given out is in styrofoam boxes. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's because we're in Southeast Asia, we are surrounded by third world countries, and we are huge manufacturers of, Tupperware, straws, plastic cutlery. And because of that, it's also cheap to us. So it's quite hard to navigate through that because, you look at the Western sort of countries and cities, and they pay the price for this. But for Asia, we like things fast and cheap and convenient. And, we perhaps don't have the education or the government bodies to really assess where everything goes and also govern it, like really regulate it. So it's a little difficult. It's a very sensitive subject, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I saw one of your videos on your Instagram, Yumika, the one that I think someone was having lunch and you guys were going to get together for lunch and someone brought a plastic container instead of a lunch bag or something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
I thought it was so cute.
I mean, it's a convenience, right? Like, I get it. And even you see these food delivery services changing their ways, but, they might encourage their vendors to please use, paper bags for delivery. We have an opt-out cutlery option. But then these vendors are just used to, especially the hawker stalls, having the plastic already there that they mindlessly just give it away. And the education isn't there. And perhaps it's with the older generation. I feel like the younger generation are having these sort of platforms to be educated on, hey, do this, especially with influencers. Like, I even just got an email from a food delivery service that wants to do another sort of post about, we want to tell audiences what we've done to become more sustainable, but people don't know. So this is the way that we're sort of like outreaching to educate.
Yeah. Speaking of which, do you think that sustainability has a privilege problem? Having said that as well, the fact that a lot of people who are living in urban areas are a lot more aware of the term sustainability or what it means to be eco-aware. But beyond that, it's a completely different situation because bear in mind, Southeast Asia as a region, you have probably pockets of like urban centers. But beyond that, they're mostly probably just villages or, I work with an Aboriginal village. And when I first went there to set up the school, during like lockdown, I went there, you see all these families just burning trash, like regardless of what it was. It was just plastic Tupperwares or food waste and whatsoever. Everything gets thrown into the rivers, everything. Your land is basically your dump site. But we're trying to educate them. But at the same time, they're like, no, I mean, this is our way of life and it's very different to what it is back in the city. So I don't know, it's a privilege problem, but even beyond that, it could be something else. There's also the case of, garment workers, everything else in between, sometimes even a women's rights issue. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's really like a privilege thing because it is very expensive because my family, my mom's side from Sabah, like most of them live in the village and that's their way of life, burning trash because there's no one to come pick up their trash and put it in landfill. So that's what they would do. And in terms of like food vendors, like street food vendors, they would always use plastic because the biodegradable ones are not accessible in where they are. And it's more expensive, like far more expensive. It probably costs more than the food that they're selling. So they can't survive with, being more sustainable. But I hope one day, I mean, I am like working with an NGO and starting to bring this kind of technology and how we can produce biodegradable things or how we can educate them and how we can reduce the plastic that they use over there because most of them are unaware and that's their way of life basically.
Right. Yumika, your mom's Japanese, not half Japanese. You're half Japanese.
Yeah. I'm half Japanese. My mom is Japanese. But even like, I mean, there are villages I feel like that do have this like way of life that they do reuse. I think I was watching this girl on Instagram who's like she's a farmer, and she cooks from everything that's available on the farm, and even like grabs apples with the sticks that she makes and then sharpens them and then cooks them on the sticks and stuff. And so there's like, yeah, and
Watch her too.
I love her. And so I just think it's like, it's funny because it kind of makes us want to go back to those old ways of very handmade and very, you know, just raw in a way. But, you know, going back to even privilege, I think that there's too much of a mentality of don't know, don't care. Don't know, it's not my problem. So when you even think about country just, you know, discarding their trash, like even the fact that China, I mean, I didn't even know where our trash went until China was like, hi, we've decided not to accept anyone's plastic anymore. And then these, you know, films and images started coming out of the Philippines, you know, their beaches and towns completely covered in like rubbish. And so, yeah, there is definitely a privilege problem, and it's a shame, but it does seem to also circulate quite a lot in Southeast Asia, which is interesting. Again, I just think it's needs to be governed and regulated properly. You know, we need to sort of marry, you know, fashion, production, science, and government bodies all together a bit better.
Yeah. Speaking of fashion, I think one of the bigger buzzwords in sustainability, or something, a word that's often associated with, is fast fashion. Dealing with fast fashion, do you think sustainability and fast fashion can ever coexist together?
I personally don't think so. I think because fast fashion, the main thing I know about fast fashion is that their clothes, their collection are disposable. They're produced and sold very cheap for people to be able to purchase many times and purchase a bulk load. And I think because of how cheap it is, it's more mass produced. So, I mean, if they're willing to maybe just drop a few collections at a time instead of, you know, multiple at one time, then they possibly can. But yeah, at the moment, I feel like it's really hard.
I don't think that, I mean, with fast fashion, you know, it exploits makers and manufacturers. It's manufactured to like fall apart. It rips off designers' ideas, and, you know, the pollution it creates is incredible. But I think that in terms of fast fashion, can it exist? No, because it needs to be slow fashion. The only way for it to be able to exist, which is almost like an interesting example to see what H&M are doing. H&M are really pushing that sort of sustainable fashion sort of front on. And, you know, they've introduced the bins, which have been great, but they haven't, you know, gone to their manufacturers and changed their manufacturers and productions for, you know, fair wage. That's definitely their biggest issue right now.
Yeah.
And then also, I think I saw a video, they've introduced machines that basically can shred clothes and then make them into new ones. But is the transparency that they've created with these, you know, visual, beautiful videos enough? How can you, they're going to be a fast fashion, a sustainable fast fashion, it needs to really be a circular economy. But are they able to really monitor every single one of their garments and where they go and then recover them? I don't know if they can.
Yeah. Well, in that case, how would you be able to consume fashion sustainably? I mean, you both are really, like, you know, at the forefront of this. Being a model, being a businesswoman and host, how do you both consume fashion sustainably?
Well, main thing is buying secondhand, buying used clothes. You know, you want to reuse things that are readily available, that are disposed, and, you know, instead of just throwing in the trash, you can always just upcycle it or just rewear it because it's still wearable. Apart from that, well, Zalora did introduce recently their Earth Edit. It's made it a whole lot easier and a lot more reasonably priced compared to the other, just mainly focusing on sustainable clothes. Yeah, those are the only things. And smart purchasing, really, like purchasing clothes that you think that will last for a long time and won't go out of style. Yeah, those are my main things. Now, Yumika can do it now.
I think when I was younger, and obviously I didn't have as much disposable income, and my agenda was to fit in and really discover my identity. And that's also looking cute in like cute clothes and fitting with your friends and whatnot. But I think like, it's a shift that I've created between going from consuming quantity over quality.
Yeah.
And now being, 31 now, it obviously costs me a lot more to invest in one piece, but I'm buying quality over quantity. Especially when you move places, move apartments, you really see how much stuff you accumulate, especially being, in the influencer industry. You keep accepting things and then you're just like, I don't know what to do with this all. Like, it's so careless of me. So I think with fashion, for me, what really switched me was I've always been into secondhand clothes, and actually about 60% of my clothes in my closet are secondhand. But now I've made, little steps and little goals. So I now avoid, buying polyester type of materials. So there might be a cute dress and I'll be like, oh, cute. And then I really look into what is it made of, which before I used to never look at what the material is. That straight away makes my decision. Researching ethical brands. One of the first things I used to never do as well is when you go on a website for a fashion brand, I go into the About Us section and I read every single word. And it also is the first step to being like, okay, do I really want to buy from this brand? Do I really want this dress? I think that I love, ethical brands are great because one, it's slow fashion. It's meant to be quality, it's meant to last, and it's usually made from natural fabrics like linen and cotton, organic cotton, hopefully, that are going to biodegrade if it ever gets to the process where it's completely discarded in landfill, which hopefully it doesn't. But at least ethical brands are trying to solve environmental issues. They're authentic, it's inclusive, diverse, and it also inspires us to care about our clothes. I've always been this way, but especially now, been a lot more sentimental with the things that I buy. So it's not about thinking about when you're going to discard it. It's kind of like, it's a shame if you ever have to.
I used to also keep all of these more zhuzh outfits, for, important times. But then at the end of the day, it's probably going to happen once a year or twice a year. And then once you wear it, like maybe once, you won't want to wear it anymore. So I would borrow either from, if I am friends with a designer, then I would maybe ask if I can lend it, or within friends, like within as models, because as models, we tend to collect like really good pieces from, our travels and this and that. And I would ask if I could borrow it for one night or something, or with my other friends. And most of them, they are more than happy to lend it because it's honestly better than purchasing it and then wearing it once and then just keeping it in your closet for the rest of your life, probably. Yeah, like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it's a sustainable collection. I want to buy that. But then at the end of the day, it's so ugly. It's just loungewear. Like, why can't it be cute? And also, pretty much 90% of their collection is fast fashion, at the end of the day, disposable. So it's hard to fall for these things. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, how much was it priced?
Maybe double
the
amount.
God.
I don't know why. I understand that, like Tencel, for example, the technology to produce it is expensive. And that I understand. But if it's just 100% cotton, that's not very expensive to produce. So that's another privilege, like, downside of it being expensive.
Exactly. Right. Right back to the whole issue with like sustainability being a privilege problem. If you want to go into this route, right? Even if you want to buy something that's organic or something that's sustainable, there's always the problem of it being double the price. If you go into the grocers, even like organic vegetables are like twice, triple the price. This kind of like fuels the toxicity that goes into the industry as well. There's so much about it that kind of makes it look that like as if it's exclusive, but it's not. It should be for all. It should be for everyone. And that's my issue with it. But how can you go into sustainability without having to shell out maybe a few $100 on like one day on like your groceries? How are you going to be able to make the small little like changes in your life? I think that's probably what would make it a little bit more appealing, a lot more important than just like spending an X amount of money on like, hey, I've got like 12 like metal straws, or like, oh, I bought this like sweater that's made from like seaweed fibers and it costs $400. It's really not about that. It should be for everyone.
Yeah, I think I mean, in the end, everyone can always like, it's not about like, oh, look, I bought these metal straws and I bought these like bamboo cutlery. You can always use anything that you have in your drawers already. You most of the time you already have that stuff, like even containers, like just keep reusing them. But it is hard because sustainability is expensive, and I've experienced that with my business. Like right now, I'm trying to, I'm trying to get my manufacturing closer to Singapore and somewhere where I can actually visit and see more, because my current manufacturer is in China, but it's very hard to get there. Like there's a flight and then there's another flight and then there's like a 4-hour drive into like a countryside to get there. And to me,
and that's like carbon footprint, isn't it?
Exactly. And to me, it like weighs on me morally, being like, I want to be 100% authentic. And so I need to see the transparency, from there. So I've been getting samples from a few other manufacturers, one in Thailand, one in Taiwan, for example, who's a really interesting tech fabric production company. And every part of their waste, they recycle back into their fabrics again. But my bag's Pico bag is $13.95. I've made it to a price where it's competitive with all the other reusable bags out there, but it's also not too expensive that people are like going to say no. And the price I got back to make a sample for like, I think 1,000 units for just one bag was going to cost me $12.90 USD, which is already more expensive than how much I sell the bag for. So it's like, how do you marry that? It is expensive. It's tough.
Maybe because the technology isn't there yet. That's not readily accessible to everyone at this point, but maybe in the future. It does, however, help that people like you are taking the step forward to create that demand, to be able to supply and even offer these goods to people, and the more people who do it, the easier it gets. It's just a matter of time, I think.
But I think that sustainable products right now are considered, for example, the creative agency I'm working with for this bag, it's an incredible bag and I've been testing it. And they're like, why don't you make a premium range? But why does the sustainable products have to be a premium product? Yes, they embody everything. And even, for example, shampoos and conditioners, the most sustainable one out there right now is, not the most sustainable, I guess, high class, type of one out there is Aveda. Yeah. They use recycled plastic for their bottles and wind power, solar powered production. But it's going to cost me $52 to buy a conditioner that's going to last me 2 weeks. Like, it's very hard to bring it into your lifestyle without being able to have that disposable income.
Nat, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, most of them are really expensive. Like the Aveda part, I can't afford any of that. It's way too expensive. But I have noticed a lot of local, local brands are coming up with more eco-friendly and sustainable products, especially like skincare and body care, and also just one-time use swaps, like kitchen, instead of plastic wraps, they would have those
the beeswax wraps.
Yes, those beeswax wraps.
I'm obsessed with those things.
Yeah, me too. And I think when Yumika was saying that her mom used to wrap, her sandwiches in cloth, it's a very similar concept. And, they're super cute. Yeah, and it really boils down to it being affordable. And I think if we stay as local as possible, it will, be a lot more cheaper, and it will help, local businesses as well, and reduce carbon footprint, for the carbon emission with the travels, the logistics part of things. Yeah.
Yeah, just to kind of pick on that as well. I do feel that because it's somehow becoming a trend, a lot more brands locally, in each of our own countries, they're taken into their own hands and then turning and spinning the narrative within their own businesses. So I know there's a lot of, like you said, Nat, so many different brands here in Malaysia, be it from whether it's fashion or beauty or even lifestyle, so many of them are trying to make a change. Maybe it's because of a trend. They want to jump in on it, and if that's a good thing, so be it. Even
Yeah.
if it's like, just a trend. You're like, oh, look at me, I've got like this bag. Oh, like, okay, at least you're doing something,
Yeah, that's so true. And like people like just putting the vegan label, plant-based labels on like their product when really they've done nothing different. It's the same. It's just that they've always been plant-based and vegan. But to just jump on the trend to it becoming more appealing towards, like the more conscious consumers, they will put these labels on it. Yeah, it's become a huge marketing tool and it relates to greenwashing at the end of the day. But yeah, we just need to look past that and probably choose brands and products that are really focusing on sustainable products.
Yeah. Should we be more concerned about ethics or considered materials?
Well, for me, I think it's more ethics than considered materials because if
Yeah.
you're a sustainable brand, but for example, you're racist or something like that, you don't pay your workers fairly, then what's the point of calling yourself a sustainable, ethical brand? Right? Yeah. So I think for me, how you treat humans, because at the end of the day, we're human, we're one community. We need to be treated the same way equally. And how you treat animals as well, more so than the environment, I think.
Yeah. What do you think, Yumika?
I think ethics for sure, because say, for example, even if you're going to buy like, let's say a coat and it's made from incredible construction with polyester or nylon, be it. But if it's made quality, it's going to last. But then say with ethics, like for example, the extremist Pretty Little Things?
Mm-hmm.
That company, if they suddenly like, oh, look, we made a little sustainable range, when, just last year they did a massive sale where they were selling things off for like 5 cents or 2 cents or something like that, that doesn't make them sustainable. So for sure, ethics behind who made the clothes, were they paid fairly, were they in the right environment, etc., is way more important.
Yeah, I guess it also starts from having to ask the questions, or maybe just trying to get this curious kind of fire kind of burning inside of you. If you're not curious about it, there's no way you're going to be able to get an answer out of anything, regardless of whether it's sustainable or not.
I think most people have that mindset because it doesn't affect them directly, but it affects other people, maybe especially the lower income people directly, and they just would close one eye and forget about it and just do whatever their heart or mind tells them to do. And, I always tell people, stay curious, whenever you feel like something is off, use the internet. It's there for you, and always do the right thing. And there's so many issues around the sustainable community and brands as well, with size inclusivity. A lot of the brands are sustainable, yes, but they only have a range of double XS to maybe only L, and then they stop there. What about the other people, the other women that are, of the majority, like a size 14 to 16 or higher? How can you call yourself an ethical brand if you're not inclusive and is making other women feel like crap at the end of the day,
Yeah, that's so true. I'm working with another brand and, they're trying to up the sizes that they offer for women because only they've just realized this, that a lot of people are coming back to them and asking, hey, do you have this in my size? And they're like, oh, no, we don't. But luckily for them, they're a small brand, so they're like, yeah, actually, we can offer this and we should actually be offering this, because if we're going to be a female-led brand, then we should be able to be accessible to everyone, to every woman out there. It's not just the XS or the size 8, the size 10s of the world. It's a women's right issue as well. And it goes beyond just pricing or how you consume it. It's about really who you are in its own physicality of it.
Yeah.
Now, okay, before we finish, I want to ask you guys, how can we be more conscious with our lifestyles? Yumika, I'm sure you've got a ton of tips as well from your mom.
Asian mom syndrome.
Listen, you say that and it's true, I see all these Instagram memes, right? And they're like, oh, everyone out there in the West are saying, oh, we're so sustainable and everything. But then if you look at our parents, they're washing all these Ziploc bags in like a dishwasher. And I'm like, why do you need to wash a Ziploc bag? You do that.
My mom used to do that all the time, wash every single thing. Even if we go and order something outside and they give us like plastic cutlery, she would wash and collect them. I don't know. Well, I don't know if we're going to use it at the end of the day, but yeah, at least it's not going into landfill, right?
That's me. Like every single takeout that I get, like from my Grab Food or like Food Panda or whatever, everything that comes to my door, and I'm like, so okay, this is in like a Tupperware. This is like a plastic container. I'm going to wash it. And now I don't know what to do with them. I'm like, I'm on this like Facebook group, and it's called Zero Waste Malaysia and also the Buy Nothing Project. And now I'm like obsessed. I'm obsessed with these like groups. You can get a printer for free. I'm just saying. You can get a printer or a furniture. You can get it for free. Yeah, and that's going to go on our Facebook right now.
Can you send me the link after this?
Yeah, I'll hook you up, sis. But like seriously, okay, you can get like a bed for free. You can get whatever for free. If you ask it, thou shalt receive it. But you also see so many like Tupperwares that have been like collected over maybe lockdown, and everyone's just like giving them away. And I'm like, this is kind of insane, but also it's good, I guess, for people who are like meal prepping at home or like, you know, trying to bring Lunchables to like work or school or something like that. You have that option. At least you're saving it, and then you're washing and then giving out to like, you know, whoever it is out there who wants to go and recycle it in different ways. And I find it really interesting that there are people like that. You know, I mean, if there's anyone out there who wants to give me like a free bed, like I'm not going to oppose to that. I would like a free bed because my bed's broken.
Well, I'm moving, so woman from Singapore.
Holla at your girl.
One from me.
Holla at your girl. But yeah, if you can share your tips and tricks, I know you all have a lot to spare.
I mean, I think it all starts with the mind, right? Like there's a reason why it's called conscious, you know, conscious community, conscious, you know, brand, etc. Just be conscious of like, where did it come from? What is it made of? Where is it going? And the last resort, for example, food Tupperware containers is really discarding them. In Singapore, at my last place, I was washing them and collecting them. And then my roommates were like, enough, we like have enough. You need to stop doing this. But in Singapore, like the recycling system here is terrible. And apparently I choose to be ignorant to this, but like they still apparently like mix the garbage and the recycling things together. But I still make sure I have my recycling bag, I've washed everything, and then I take it downstairs to the condo's recycling bin. So it's just kind of, you know, be conscious. And then secondly, curate what you see and perhaps even just your feed. I follow, you know, when it comes to fashion, I think a really good one is called Fashion Revolution.
Yeah,
and
that's a really good one.
Yeah, and they like educate. So every day on my feed, I might be scrolling, beautiful dress, beautiful shoes. So I love this. And then suddenly there's like post comes up about women's ethical rights, these factories and what's happening, or what has Mango done with their, you know, production. And so kind of like slapping you back into reality and like avoiding the need for consumption. And it always starts with little steps. So with my brand Pico Bag, our tagline is change your habit, change the world. And this is what my sustainable journey has always been. I change one habit and then I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to do this now. Oh, I'm going to start with a bag. Oh, I'm going to start bringing my coffee cup. And then whenever I want a coffee, if I don't have my coffee cup, I'm not allowed to do it. I'm going to start bringing my final straw. I'm going to start bringing this. So do it in a slow way, but always start step by step and don't be too harsh on yourself.
Yeah. Nat?
Yeah, don't be too harsh on yourself. Just small efforts will make a huge difference for everyone. I think collectively, you know, as a community, if we start doing it. But I think mainly for me, just eat more plant-based foods, you know, eat less meat. That will help the environment a lot. And like Yumika has mentioned, the conscious purchasing. And I tend to use very little electricity. My electricity bill every month is like 40 ringgit because I live in the dark. So I turn on like 1 or 2 lamps.
Yumika and I are like making faces. We're like, girl.
I myself, but it worked, you know, like we don't really need so much light at night at the end of the day. And it's more calming to, you know, have some dim lights here and there, and it feels cozy. Wash your clothes in lower like temperatures because the washing machine takes up a lot of electricity. Just put it at like cold water or just 30 degrees. That's good enough. And I personally don't own a car. That's mainly to prevent me from going to long distance places, for leisure. If it's for work, then I have no choice. Yeah. Because Grab is expensive at the end of the day. So
it's crazy expensive.
It's expensive. So if I just feel like I want to go to this place for brunch, but it's maybe 15 kilometers away and it's going to cost me like 30 ringgit, I'll just make my own brunch at home,
That's actually a very good like strategy, honestly. Mm-hmm. And your nighttime, is it like your nighttime thing that you don't use lights or something, or is it just during the day?
Yeah. During the day also, because I would choose a place with a lot of natural light so I don't have to turn on any lamps.
Right. I'm very invested in this. Yeah, I'm very invested in your day to night activity.
And I have a lot of lamps, and I'll just use those lamps, and it makes your place look a lot more cozier. Yeah, and I barely use the aircon, to be honest. Like only if it's really hot, I will turn it on for maybe half an hour. That's about it. Yeah, and it's so much better for your skin too. So that's a plus.
Yeah, that's really smart. I might have to do this and then turn it into like the Natalie Prabha kind of like campaign. You should do it. You should do it like on Instagram. I'll join you.
Yeah, we'll do like a live together and compare our lives, and then at the end of each other's electricity bills.
Or is it going to be completely pitch black? If you probably won't be able to see any of us. It's just like pitch black.
No. Complaints, like my friends coming over and they're like, "Why is it so dark?" And I'm like, you don't have enough vitamin A in your system.
It's ambient lighting.
Dining in the dark.
Dining in the dark. Okay, but what do you guys wish brands would do more in order to further achieve sustainability?
Be more transparent with how the garments are produced and who are producing the garments and where and how is that garment or the material traveling. And just even with the materials chosen, list down every single thing, don't just give us made from recycled polyester, but it's only 40% recycled and the rest is the regular recycled polyester. And just make it easier by being transparent and honest. And I think we would appreciate that a lot more than, just putting out flowery terms here and there.
I think it would be I guess consumption, but a lot of my friends are in the same field as I, presenting, hosting, modeling, and then influencing. So I think like it would be great if they, just consumed less. It's a little bit hard because of course there's that job aspect to working with certain brands, but also like ask yourself, does your mom need really like 100 of all the creams that you accumulated throughout all these jobs throughout the year? Rent more outfits, of course. And then ideally, just please try not to use single-use plastic.
Buy more pico bags. A casual plug right there.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming on board with Zalora Talks and I, your host, Amy Yasmine. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you both. Learned a lot.
Yeah.
Learned a lot. I hope everyone can learn a lot from this as well. To our listeners at home, you can stay up to date with us on Zalora and on Instagram through their handles, Natalie Prabha and Yumika Hoskin. I'll put the link into the Spotify synopsis as well. So until then, this is Amy Yasmine and Natalie and Yumika signing out. Chat soon in our next episode. Same time, same place, where Asia's online fashion destination comes to life. Bye.